Hi roses! So in today's video I am going to be showing you guys how to make my version of a pumpkin custard pie. Me and my boyfriend just made this recently and it was super amazing and perfect for fall, so I wanted to show you guys. The first thing to do is to preheat your oven to 350 degrees, and what we're doing here is just moving the rack down into the middle of the oven so the pie gets a perfect cook. I personally like my crust extra crispy and flaky, so we're just throwing that bottom crust into the oven for 10 minutes. This is kind of an overview of most of the ingredients besides the cream and the eggs, but now we're going to be taking the pumpkin puree, which is organic. We got this from Whole Foods. It is farm fresh, and we're just going to be opening that up and throwing it into a big mixing bowl. Make sure that you get every last bit out of the pumpkin puree box because this is the main pumpkin flavor that's going to be shining through, and you want to get every last bit of that flavor so the pie can be super pumpkin-y. Then I'm just checking my crust, and if you leave it in too long, it's going to start bubbling up, so just be vigilant and make sure that you're checking it every couple minutes to make sure that you're pressing those bubbles down. If you have some weight, some food weight to put in there, I would recommend doing that, but I didn't have one. Once all the pumpkin puree is poured out into a mixing bowl, I'm going to start adding our dry ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to be adding is a half a teaspoon of salt, which is going to amplify the flavor and open your taste buds. Next, I'm adding 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. If you want, you can add a little extra. Half a teaspoon of nutmeg. We were a little generous with the nutmeg because we really like how it kind of pulls the whole dish together, but if you're not a big fan, just half. Lastly, for the dry ingredients, we're adding a pinch of coriander and allspice. Once your bowl looks like this, we're going to move on to the next part of this recipe. We just pulled out the crust and added a bit of butter because we thought this would act as a perfect base to lay the pumpkin custard on top of, and it also just gives it a little more flavor. So you're taking 3 large eggs or 4 medium size. We actually did 4 medium size, and we're just cracking those into a bowl. Remember to crack every egg one by one just to make sure that no pieces of the shell get into the mixture. After all eggs are cracked, we're going to start mixing this baby up. So at first we were using a small little spatula, but we realized that the best way to mix up this mixture is to whisk it because it allows air to get inside of the mixture and it makes it a little more fluffy. To be more clear, using the whisk whisks air into the mixture and gives it a better consistency for the pie. So now I'm just taking a small saucepan, putting it over a burner and turning that burner on to medium-low heat and starting to heat that up. This small saucepan is going to be used to make the custard part of the recipe. Once the pumpkin puree is mixed with all of the dry ingredients, including the eggs, you are going to set that aside and start focusing on the custard part. So we are going to be taking 2 types of maple syrup. This recipe specifically substitutes sugar for maple syrup to give the pie a more natural sweetener. So I'm going to be taking the Golden Blossom maple syrup and the barrel-aged maple syrup that was aged in bourbon barrels. The first maple syrup I'm going to be taking is the normal Blossom maple syrup, and I'm going to be pouring a half cup of that. And then I'm going to be taking the bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup, which was made in Vermont, and we got this from Whole Foods. It really smells like straight up bourbon, but it doesn't, you can't even taste it. So we're pouring the rest half cup, which equals a full cup, and we're going to be adding that into the small saucepan. We ended up adding a little extra maple syrup to the saucepan because we knew that as it was heating up, we would lose a little of that sweet maple flavor. So we just added a little bit extra, and our bottle was almost empty, so we just finished it off. Once all the maple syrup is in the pan, you want to make sure the heat is on very low because you don't want anything to burn. So we're going to be adding our pure vanilla extract next. This is a half of a teaspoon, so we're adding 2 of these to make a full teaspoon. And once that's in there, you just want to stir it up. At the last second, we just added a pinch more of the barrel-aged maple bourbon syrup because we really wanted that bourbon flavor to pull through. Once the maple syrup and vanilla extract are both added in, you're really going to want to crank that heat up to medium heat. And once it hits a boil, it starts to look like this. You see lots of bubbles and coloring at the top. Start mixing it together. This is how you want the mixture to look like before we add in the cream. The cream element in this recipe is what really brings the custard to life. So we're going to be taking some heavy whipping cream. This was 2 cups, so we're only going to be adding 1 cup. The recipe only calls for 1 cup, but you can only add in the cream in little bits. You don't want to add in all the cream at once because it will curdle because it's on high heat. So you want to make sure that you add it in parts until it is fully mixed in. After you've poured in that first portion of cream, you're going to turn down the heat all the way to low, and you're just going to keep adding the rest of it until it is fully mixed in and looks somewhat like this. When it reaches that nice caramel coffee color, you're going to turn the heat off, and we're going to add this into the pumpkin mixture. Be aware that when you are pouring the custard element into the pumpkin mix, you have to make sure to temper it, which means to pour it in small batches. This is a crucial step because the eggs will scramble if you pour in the whole custard mix, which is super hot all at once. So just make sure to pour it in small batches until it is fully incorporated within the pumpkin mix. This step definitely takes time and patience, so just make sure to take a breath. I know that it may seem very annoying to add it little by little, but this will really give it a nice consistency, and this is really what creates the custard part of the pie. You'll know you're done mixing the custard part into the pumpkin mix when that white layer at the top disappears. This is the cream kind of settling at the top as it would in coffee or any other kind of drink. So just make sure to really mix that in until you can't really see it anymore. Now for the exciting part. So it's finally time to pour the mixture into the pie crust. So you're just taking that big mixing bowl and being very cautious and pouring that mixture in slowly until it fills up to the brim. We really tried to fill this up as much as we could, and we ended up having a little extra mixture, sadly, but we filled it up as much as we could. Here's what it will look like before it's about to go into the oven. And yes, we have some extra mixture, but don't worry about that. If you have that, just scrap it. So we've put the pie in, it is ready to bake, and you're just gonna close that oven up and let it cook. Here's me just checking on it at 15 minutes in. It's looking good. At the 30-minute mark, you're going to want to flip the pie around so it cooks evenly. You want all sides to be cooked at the same rate. Now it's almost been an hour that the pie has been in. We put it in at 10:30. It's 11:22 now, and this is what it looks like. It's definitely blown up a lot. You can really see that rich pumpkin color. This recipe calls for the pie to be in for an hour, but at 11:28 with only 2 minutes left, it was really bubbling up, so we knew it was time to pull this baby out. So we have taken it out and it just looks so scrumptious. That maple syrup really gave it that deep, dark, rich brown color, and I'm just super excited to take a bite of it. So because this recipe is a custard-based recipe and it involves eggs, we have to refrigerate it for up to 24 hours. So we are just taking some Glad cling wrap and we are wrapping it around the entire pie to act as a seal and really keep all that flavor inside. So this is what it should look like. And then we are going to go in with a second seal and we're taking the Reynolds wrap, which is just aluminum foil, and we are creating a second layer to really cover that pie. Keep in mind that the pie should be tightly wrapped around all corners, but also make sure not to ruin the crust. So just be gentle and cautious with it during this step. So we actually decided to keep the pie in the refrigerator for 48 hours to really let those flavors set in and really get to know each other even more. So this has been 2 days since we've really seen the pie, smelled it, and really, gotten to know it. So here it is in the flesh. It looks amazing. I am so ready to dig in and just eat my heart out. Just wanted to give you guys a little close-up to see what it looks like. Yummy. So now we are just cutting into it. Make sure that when you're cutting into it, you're not sliding the knife too much because it is delicate, being that it is a custard-based pie. So we're just cutting a thick, healthy slice. I am not going in for a small one. And I'm just going to be putting that on my plate. So here's the finished product. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up. I hope all of you try this out at home. It is a super amazing recipe and it's a little twist on a normal pumpkin pie. The custard element just really spruces it up and really just makes it amazing. You could try this out for Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, any type of holiday. I hope you guys loved this video. If you want to see more cooking videos, let me know. I have been really on a roll with these cooking videos. So yes, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to this channel and I will see you guys next time.